everybody, this is Tina with Loving Life's Little Blessings. Welcome to Memory Keeping Friday. We are going to take a look at the Project Life wedding album series that I am doing. We're going to dive in and do a couple layouts here, and I'm going to walk you through some things. And then I wanted to share with you guys, I wanted to answer some questions that I've gotten. So besides setting up the photos or organizing the photos, dividing up the photos, the next biggest question that you guys are asking me is how to choose the paper, or how did we choose like the theme of it. So I have a couple answers for you guys. First of all, because we broke the albums into two different, like we broke the project up into two different albums. This is all of the before stuff, and then this is actually the wedding. That made it a little bit easier. So it kind of broke our project right in half, because we knew that we would have two different albums, and while we wanted them to coordinate, we knew it gave us a little bit of room to be creative. So I have ordered albums from Becky Higgins. I've ordered leather albums. I'll have a little bit of a Project Life haul later in the month for you guys, some items I picked up, but those are on their way. And then we have ordered 12 by 12 prints from Persnickety Prints. Those are on their way. So this first album is pretty much done, other than the journaling and the embellishing, right? So what we did is, her wedding colors, it was like a poppy parade kind of color, like an orangish, an orange reddish color. And then she actually had almost fall like colors, even though she was married in April. So it was almost, we almost went in that kind of color scheme, and we followed just like the color of her bridesmaids dresses. And it just so happened that Stampin' Up! Had recently had a color that went along those lines of it was the poppy parade color, which matched really perfect. So for the first album, I had seen this paper, which this paper was some celebration paper that we had, and then the paper went on the clearance rack. And so mainly this piece right here, and then I shared with you guys that her wedding shower invitation was actually done in this stamp set. This was actually a stamp set as well. And so that's kind of what caught my eye about it. And I was like, maybe that would work. So this designer paper had some early espresso in it. It had this piece in it, this piece as well, which has a little bit of blue in it. And then it had some early espresso. Now this side we did not use, this striped side with the green. We did not use any of that because it just didn't really go. We didn't much use any of this side because it didn't go. I'm trying to find that one other piece that we used. This, we used a little bit of the orange because that went a little bit, oh, this piece right here. This was the other piece that we used. This side right here, and then this side, which had some early espresso in it. So I had got a pack of that, and I had showed her, and she really liked it, and we felt like it would go really well. It gave us several different colors to work with. So the thing you want to remember when you're choosing the color scheme or the paper that you're going to use, first of all, you want to be able to get a lot of the paper if it's a big project like this. Now, luckily, this paper was on the clearance rack, so it was like $3 for a 12 by 12 pack of it, and I think there was 12 sheets in it. So I literally just bought like 12 or 15, and then every time I would order, I would just throw a pack on there, and we ended up with a lot of paper. Like, this is what's left because this other album is pretty much done. So you can see we have a lot of it, but I knew that every single design wouldn't work, but I knew the majority of the designs would work. So that's the first thing, is you want to be able to make sure you can get enough of that paper in quantities that are gonna work. If you can only get one sheet of it, it's not gonna work. If you can only get 2 or 3 sheets of it, it's not gonna work to use as a main accent piece. That doesn't mean you can't weave it in and use pieces of it in certain places. So our colors that we picked, it was Poppy Parade, Early Espresso, Very Vanilla, So Saffron, and then we added in a little bit of blue. So the yellow and the blue we kind of added in when we needed to. So this is the paper that we did all of this side of the album in. So you can see that I just weaved out the patterns in between. We used all dark colors for the background, and then we used the designer paper as accents. So that's the other thing that's really important. I feel like when you're doing a big project like this, you really want to use solid backgrounds and then just use your designer papers as an accent, and then that too will allow your accent pieces to go farther. So then you can see right here, we did use this. There's a couple places where I used big pieces of the paper. We used it very sparingly at first. We weren't sure how far it was going to go, how much we had. Once we were into the project a little bit more, we began using it a little bit more. You can always go back and add more paper to the different layouts. The problem is that you can't necessarily take away what you've already done. So in the beginning, when you're working, you know, in the beginning part of your albums, you cannot really know how far your product is going to stretch. So if you can just kind of work through it and get going, then you'll kind of get a sense like, yeah, I'm sure I have enough paper for it. So that is how this side came out. You can see, again, back here, we start using a little bit more of it. I have more inserts. This is a great way. I love the way items look when we're layering, and I'm going to show you a layered page. We're going to work on one in a minute, but I love the way layered pages look in an album. So like here's a large 8.5 by 11 designer piece, and then it's laying against some solid, and that really makes your album look, it gives your album a lot of depth. I do always suggest, if you have this is like a really intricate design, I should have matted these photos really to give them a little bit more depth instead of just putting the photos right on the designer paper. I tend to not like that. I'm not sure why I didn't mat them. Okay, so see, we did use a little bit back here for the rehearsal dinner. Once we got into the rehearsal dinner, we kind of used each pattern to define what we were working on. So this was the rehearsal dinner, and we felt like it was a little bit more fun, and so we kind of threw in a couple of these stripes, and it worked well. So then for the next album, for the wedding portion of her album, she happened to see some designer paper that she liked in one of our Stampin' Up! Catalogs, and it worked well with her wedding because of the theme of it. It was kind of country, and the colors worked really well. And it was this paper right here, and I believe this was called Tea Time. It was in our Occasions catalog at the time. You can see it has this like Calypso coral color, which is really close to the Poppy Parade color. It's very similar. It has the very vanilla, which worked great. It had the roses and the floral element and a little bit of that green, which was perfect. And then it had a few blues. So it had an island indigo blue. It had a light, like pool party blue. And then it had that yellow. So when we get into this album, and then it had like this pattern right here, which kind of looked quilted, a little bit more country. It had, like, see right here, it had this. There's a hexagon. Let's see if I can find a piece of it. Oh, it had this with the circles and the yellow. So we were really able to have quite a few colors to work with. The problem is that when you only pick one or two colors, it can be really hard to transition things from one page to another. It can get really boring when you're working with such a large project. Okay, so that's how we chose the colors. We kind of looked, obviously it was a wedding, so we looked at the themes and the colors of her wedding and really pulled from that. And even though she really didn't have any blue in her wedding, blue was a very easy accent color to use. It worked really well in this paper, so while it wasn't huge pops, we definitely were able to pull when we needed to. So that's how we chose the colors and the themes. So all the embellishments, you know, the buttons, the ribbons, the brads, anything that we used for embellishments after we chose the paper, we just chose a very country type theme for those, like these little tea-laced doilies, the antique brads. We just kept it in that very country feeling theme. So the next thing is you can see that we have some of the pages done, but I wanted to talk to you guys about this spread right here. So this is going to be a 12 by 12 photo, and then we have a design G here. And because we have some photos that are both vertical and horizontal. So this is what I want to work on along with this side. And then also I want to talk about these two photos right here. Hopefully I'll get both done for you guys. I've talked a lot in the beginning here, so I'm not sure if I will. So I know that this is going to be a 12 by 12 photo, and I know that this layers. Now her album is it kind of bows right here because we have so many photos in the back stacked up back here, so it kind of is like a little bit weird. So the next tip I want to give you guys is to just, once you have divided everything up and you kind of are getting a good start, when you begin to work on things, I want you to just focus in on one set of layouts, one layout at a time. So right now I'm going to focus right here. So you can see that there are some layouts that are already done. Like this was her getting her dress on, and we've already done that. Along with back here, I've already slipped in the photos of the guys getting their little boutonnieres on. We've already done that, slipped everything in. It just needs some journaling. I just, again, used a design G. A design G is great for projects that, or different events where you have lots of different people taking photos. So instead of trying to ask everybody, can you please make sure that you take all your photos vertical or horizontal, however you scrapbook, you can use these design Gs if you're getting photos from different people, because it's not going to matter how they take their photos, which is really nice. So like right here, we have, it was perfect. I have a photo right here, and it was taken in this orientation, but we have two other photos of the exact same people, same event, same time frame, and the photos are taken in a different direction. So we're just using a design G and doing that. It gives you a great layered effect. So let's go back here and then let's get started with this. So now I've just gone through, and like I said, I've kind of dumped all my photos where I want them to be. So now I need to decide how these are going to lay out and what I want to do with them. So I know this is going to be a 12 by 12 photo. So I really want to make sure that layering, I'm sorry about the lighting, you guys. I have a huge glare. I'm sorry. So I really want to make sure that while everything is laying in here, it looks really nice and has really nice accents, okay? So let's scoot down here. This part right here will just be a photo, so that will look beautiful. So then let's decide right here what we're going to do. Now I have these photos. I really don't like how there's like all photos, all pattern paper. I would really like to break it up somehow. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove all this pattern paper because it all looks weird. It's not coordinated with anything. There's like no rhyme or reason. It's just in there. So let's remove all of that and get that out of the way. The second thing I want to do is I want to move, now I have two photos of her, they're both looking the same direction. So what I would do is I would just flip this over to see if I had a photo of in this direction where maybe she was looking the other way, or, you know, so I could just see what was happening. Both of these, she's looking the same direction. The reason this one is on here is because it's going to lay here, and she's looking kind of back. So it's going to go ahead and draw our eye in. So I'm happy with this photo being on this side, but I'm going to stick this up top. Now I have these two photos. Now this is a photo of people. This is a photo of people. This is a photo of props. Okay, so what I'm going to do to even this page out, again, I'm going to switch these two photos. That's gonna break it up. So now all the people photos aren't together, and you can see how already this feels a little bit more balanced. Looks kind of like she's looking down at her bouquet and her boots and her dress, and then you have this fun photo with her and her sister, and the direction of the photo, see, she's raising her arm. and her flowers are going this way, so it's going in this direction. So everything already feels like we're all going in the same direction. Our eye is moving in the same direction, okay? So now we have a little bit of pattern paper that we need to figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to use it. So this photo is going to be large, and this photo has a lot of that Poppy Parade color in it because it's the dresses. And when it's larger, those dresses are really gonna pop, her flowers are really gonna pop. We really want that to be the main focus of all of this, is those beautiful flowers. So what I want to do is I want to use patterns that maybe aren't as dark as that. This is a great one, but I'm not positive that it's going to look all that perfect right there. So what I can do is just look at the patterns that I have. I think that one of these patterns would look really great. Let me just see if I have any small pieces. So I do, I have a bunch of them. So let's use one of these, and I'm going to put it right here, and I'll tell you why in one moment. Let's get this one. How does this one go in? Right here. Let's get that there. And then we have some yellow. And then also what you want to do is make sure, flip back and see what you've used. So on this page right before, I used a lot of this floral paper, and I used yellow. So then the following page, I used a lot of yellow, so I'm probably not going to use any yellow on this side. And I probably want to try to find something maybe different than this, because I have that right. Well, yeah, I think I'm going to use one of these. So let's cut this into a 4x6. And I want to make sure that the writing, another tip you guys, the writing is going, we don't want to cut it this way to put it this way in this pocket. That's not going to look good. So we want to kind of be cautious of our designs of our paper when we're putting them in pockets. These two pieces right here, and I think that I'm just going to go ahead and use this, because what I want to do with this piece is I'm going to want to put some kind of embellishment, either a flower. I'm really thinking that a die cut flower would be pretty. Maybe layering it with some something that we could journal on would be nice. Something like that. So I already have sort of an idea of what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to stop and try to figure out. I'm just going to go ahead and move on, because that can be a problem, you guys. If you stop and try to figure out every little thing, it's going to take you forever. So we'll just come back to that. Now I stuck this piece here because I do want a pop of color on this page, and I want it to kind of break up what's happening. So because of the photos, and this is going to be a big photo, we're going to have a pop of color here, and then what I'm thinking is going to go right here is going to be a journaling card. Like, we'll do some kind of journaling. And so what I would like to do is add, so we have a very vanilla piece right here, which is going to coordinate, and this piece can go right in here. So now that's going to provide us a way to journal right here, and a way to tie everything together. So now this already looks much better than it did. So now let's flip it over and see what's happening. So on this side, we have her in her dress, we have her going up the steps, and then we have some floral, a close-up of the florals right here. Now, I'm not positive what I wanted to do on this side, because I have another photo of everybody, and this is with the flower girls, and I'm thinking that maybe we wanted a 12 by 12, so it would kind of bookend it, so there would be two really big photos, like one here and one here. I'm not positive that's what we're still gonna do. I'm going to look through and see if I have other photos of this, because I feel like that might be too much, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to just go ahead and put this back. I'm going to look at this now and see what we're doing. So I like the way that this is looking, but I'm not crazy about the designer paper. This will be fine. Now, when I cut this piece, I knew I didn't really want this on there. It's kind of not fitting. It says tea leaf, sun curd, Jap tea. It just doesn't really work for what I'm working with. So I went ahead and made sure I cut that off and just got this part of it, and that works. So we're gonna put this on the other side. That's gonna break it up. We're gonna have some color, and everything's going to coordinate from the front to the back. So already I love the way that has turned out. I feel like it coordinates much better. So now when I get together with her, when I get together with Danelle and we talk and figure out what exactly we wanted to do with here, we might either add more photos or it might be a 12 by 12. It might be what we meant to do. So now I just want to talk to you guys briefly, really fast, about these photos right here. These are 2 photos. This was before the wedding. And I actually took these photos. I was kind of in the house. We were running in and out, just doing stuff, helping her get ready, setting things up, figuring things up outside. This is actually their house. They have a ranch and they were married on their ranch right in their front yard. And so this is all, this is grandmas and aunts, and they're sitting inside because it was super hot, even though it was April. It was the hottest day of that April. And, they were all sitting inside because it was air conditioned, and I happened to be walking through, and it caught my eye because I tend to live life through the lens of a camera. And when I saw this, I thought it was such a precious moment of her grandma and her aunts sitting in her living room, because that's her house, you know, it's getting ready to be her house, and they're sitting there, and she's in the back getting ready. And so I snapped these 2 photos, and while they are sort of the same, like this is, you know, more of everybody's kind of in the shot, and then this is more close up of the aunts, and it's not perfect. It's a darker photo. You know, the lighting's not perfect, but I really want you guys to remember that it's the stories that count when you're putting together these albums. It doesn't matter that this isn't perfect. This is what was happening right before. And of course, we're working in mostly chronological order. So here she is getting ready. These photos are kind of after she got ready, and they're kind of posed, you know, they're more the posed photos, but they fit. Like here she is getting ready, getting in her dress, getting her hair and makeup done, that kind of thing. And this is what was going on. So it does fit, and it is really important to include these photos. So the nice thing is that, so next is going to be a 12 by 12 photo, and you can see that this is blank. Like this side, here's the 12, here's 2 photos, and then here's 2 12 by 12s, right? So we're not sure what's happening because this is going to be a large photo, and then this goes into some of the stuff that the guys did and what was happening with them when they were getting ready. So now we have to kind of tie those 2 things together. If we want these 2 photos in here, to find a way to tie it together. Now, because we're having a 12 by 12 photo here, that really does leave an open spot, and I for sure want to make sure that these are in here. So these, I'm not going to trim apart. I want them to make a statement and be larger because we're trying to fill some space, and I'm going to do them on this side, and then we're just going to leave this side blank and see what happens, see what other photos we can get. Okay, so I had to stop filming for a second, and I'm not sure exactly where I was. So a few things. I think that I actually might have an idea for this page that is kind of blank and there's nothing there. I think it would be really great because now we're kind of transitioning to the ceremony part where things are going to start happening outside. It would be really great to either have a 12 by 12 photo or a few photos of the outside of the ranch, of the house, kind of looking up on the porch. They have this big, beautiful porch. The porch kind of overlooks the yard, and that's where they got married. And so it's a very, very beautiful out where she lives. And so I think that it'll be really nice to have that photo, some photos of like transitioning to outside. I think it would make sense. The other thing I found was some of the photos that we took of some of the way things were set up. There was mason jars that were hanging from the trees and that kind of thing. And so that would make a good transitional photo that would make sense as well. This is a little bit tricky because we really don't have anything to go there. But then right here, these photos, there's a lot of them. So I remember now when we were putting all the photos in that we were not sure what to do with this. Like we knew it was going to be blank. So I think that that's a good idea. I've messaged her and we're going to try to come up with some photos. And the thing is that we can even fake it. So if she can't find some photos of the house on that day or overlooking the yard of that day, we can take a photo now of her house and of some aerial shots or some scenery shots out there. And it's gonna work fine. It's the idea. I do not have a problem faking photos when it comes to albums because sometimes you just have to do that. So don't be afraid to do that. If there's not a shot you got and you really want it, like in this case, it's just the house. Like it doesn't matter if the pictures now or then, like it's still the same idea. So the next thing I wanted to do is I'm gonna try to do this page with you guys really quick. I want to bring something light into this because this is so dark and these photos are so dark. So I cut one of these pieces. This is on the back of the yellow piece and it has this great chevron pattern. And we've not used this very much in the album so far because it just tends to not work with what we're going for, but this is gonna work perfect. So I cut a piece at 5 inches, so it's 12 inches by 5 inches. I'm going to put this over here, and then we're going to layer the photos right on this. Now I want some of them off the pattern paper and some of it on the dark. So we're gonna do that. I am gonna matte these photos in a very vanilla color so that it gives it another pop of color, and I'm going to round the corners. What I'm going to do for an embellishment, that's actually how I'm going to leave the page. For an embellishment, I'm going to cut family on my die cut machine. I'm going to put that right here, and then there's going to be a little strip of journaling. So do you see how simple that page is? There's not a lot to it at all, but it's going to give it a lot of pop. There'll be, hopefully, I'm hoping we can find a photo that we can turn into a 12 by 12 photo because I think that that is what will really transition it. If not, we'll add more of this pattern over here to transition into the next place. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna trim up these photos, corner round them, get some very vanilla and layer those up, and then I'll come back and show you guys how it ended up turning out. Hi guys, back to show you how I'm finishing up this page. So I've just taken this strip, I've put adhesive down, and I used my grid mat to make sure everything lined up. So I just used this line, made sure it all lined up, and that was super simple. Then what I decided to do is I want these to like stack one on another. So what I did is, I know that these are 4 by 6. So I cut a piece of very vanilla at 8.5 by 6.5. That's gonna allow me to stack these photos and still have a border, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to corner round the photos like I was originally going to. So 90% of the stuff in her album is corner rounded, but it's okay to intermix things that aren't corner rounded, some not. And for this, because there's such a straight edge here, I'm gonna go ahead and not corner round that. The other thing I did is I just grabbed this strip. It was actually just laying around. It wasn't, I don't know how wide it is. I was just like, that would be perfect. So I grabbed that and we're gonna layer this, and that is going to allow for a little bit more color. This is gonna be a little bit harder to make sure it's nice and lined up straight since it's kind of in the middle of all of this, but the inspiration for this page came from this layout right here. Now this is a layout that I just had laying around. It was from a scrapbooking magazine from years ago, but I loved the way everything was lined up here. I loved the way that said blessed like that, and that's what gave me the idea. So you can find inspiration like this. It doesn't have to be exact. This isn't the exact layout or the exact same design, but it really inspired me to think about what I wanted to do with this page. So now I'm gonna move on. I'm not gonna do any embellishing to this page. I'm just gonna go ahead and slip this back in the album and move on. I will move on to the next thing I will do will be this page right here. We'll do this next week. It will be this and we'll talk about this layering and how that all worked out. And I'm just gonna keep going with layouts until I get to the end, and then I'll come back and do my embellishing and journaling. I hope you guys have had a fantastic time taking a look at this album. I'm having a good time getting it together, and she is going to be very happy to finally have this project done. You can visit my coordinating blog post right up here. It has photos and any links of anything that I talked about that you guys need, along with a supply list of anything current from Stampin' Up! That I am using. As always, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you next week.
If you wanna play, make it a better place. It'll take creation, imagination. Try to draw out